Welcome to the 23rd video in the series of Copperplate Majuscules. This is for a letter W. I can't believe we're on the 23rd one already. It's going so quickly. But W is one of the best letters, I think, in my opinion, so it's worth waiting for towards the end. Today, business-wise, I am using a Nico G nib in an oblique holder. This is a speedball holder. Totally made of plastic, very lightweight, very easy to get a hold of. And a Nico G nib. I think I bought these from Amazon, so they're really easy to get a hold of. Also, I got them in a little box, which I think I still have. Yep, it's my little box that they came in. I've got other nibs in there, but this is the box that they came in. I got about 10 in the box, so easy enough to get a hold of. Okay, I've got acrylic ink on my nib, which I've spoken about before, and it has its good sides and its downsides, but okay, so we are ready to go. Had some skipping issues earlier. Okay, so I'm going to start with a compound curve, purely because it needs some kind of lead-in stroke. You can start with the universal line of beauty should you want to. I find it easier to start with this. There is no stroke order here, but just finishing on that little bit of a horizontal gives me something to latch onto, because I need to try and echo this amount of space. That's about right. So echoing the amount of negative space underneath. I'll go through that in a second. So from here, I'm going to do my upstroke, which is going to gradually increase the amount of negative space. Same deal here. Okay. All right. So if we look at a W together, give me 2 seconds so I can clean this acrylic ink off my nib. Acrylic is one of those inks where you've got to clean it off, and you've got to clean it thoroughly, otherwise you will get issues. I mean, I'm using a Nico G, and the G nibs are really durable nibs, but they are not bulletproof, obviously, and acrylic ink is one of those things that will test that, so you need to make sure that you clean it quite thoroughly, or else it will eat at the coating of your nib, and it will cause issues like thick hairlines, skipping, uneven ink distribution, causing blobbiness, you know, terminal blobbiness apparently. Right, so in a W, we've got a lot of things going on. Firstly, we've got the entry stroke right here. In a compound turn, you're looking for the same width in between all these bits. I'm just being quite careful because it's kind of hard to tell, but in acrylic ink it dries to a plastic, so it is shiny, so it's harder to tell when it's wet versus when it is it's just dry and shiny. So I'm looking for roughly the same amount of space in between all these things. Obviously I've eyeballed it. You can check. I'm always forever looking for stuff, man. I've got a handy dandy post-it here. So you can check just by covering that up and having a look at the amount of space that you've got. So I'm roughly there, but obviously it's an eyeball sort of deal, so it's never going to be perfect. I do need it to focus there though, thanks. Right, so I should have an equal amount of space. Equal amounts of space is sort of the name of the game here for a W. I don't think I've done tremendously with my W, but I think it's partially because I did have skipping issues, and also I think I'm just nervous, you know, when you're shooting a video. But like I said in the V, you've got to have gradual increase of negative space. Let's see if I put that right here. I think I'm still in frame. Yeah, I'm okay. Gradual. I'm suddenly not okay. Increase in negative space. Put that right there. Yeah, so that's going to become a gradual increase in negative space. Same here. So if I cut off that end of my W, and I'm just looking at this almost like a backwards N, you should see that the upstroke should divide that space in half, like as a hypotenuse almost. So I can see that that's just a little bit far over for me, but you know, it's like a portion of a millimeter, you know. So right in here at my halfway point, so I don't know if it's showing up on camera very well, because this paper is lovely and it's no bleed and it's so thin and it's so lightweight and really easy to manage and everything. It's brilliant. But because it's so thin, I can see my guidelines through, so I never need to turn my light pad on. So at the halfway point, which is right here, roughly. So if I put that as half, right there, at my halfway point, if I cover up, oh, I think I've got two post-it notes right here, which will do for the job. Okay. Okay, so if I cover up everything in the middle, sorry, everything but the middle, then I should be looking at two parallel and even gaps. You can see my second one is wider than my first one, and that is, I think that's just part and parcel. It just takes practice. I have just woken up this morning and haven't done a lot of writing, but I think obviously if I was doing commission work or whatever, then you know, you practice and practice and practice until it's right. So I've just spilt ink also. But it's a really good way of covering up your work so you can see where the difficulties are and then correcting them. All right, so we should have equal thicknesses, so equal amounts of space rather. So if I put this right here, equal spaces, I think I'm about, am I in there? Yeah. Between strokes, I think I can fit that in and still be in frame. Yeah, great. Equal spaces between strokes. These should at the bottom be universal lines of beauty that are gradually pointing horizontally this way. Because your lines of universal beauty right here are much more along the slant line than normal, unless you're doing ones with a much longer middle section, then it means that you're not going to have as much time to turn left and right. So it needs to be a very fast turn. Just make sure that you're not getting caught up and doing a half-baked line of universal beauty. So something like that, where that's actually pointing off there somewhere and not horizontal. You've got to be able to turn it quickly. Yeah, so even though mine's just touching the baseline, you can see it can carry on that way. This can carry on that way. It's not pointing up here. It's got that tilt right at the end. So make sure that that is true for yours also. The negative space we should be able to flip upside down and then right way back up again and get the same result. Ideally, that's how to make your letter look balanced and deliberate, so that you can concentrate on fun things. You do also have your last stroke, which is not on the slant line. So you'll see my slant line is right here. So it's not on the slant line at all. And it means that your next letter, if it is a tall letter like an H, which is quite common, will have to drop lower. It's the same deal as a T, same deal as a V. Yeah, you'll have to drop things lower because you've got that encroaching upstroke right here. So in the W, it's very similar to an M, where there are lots and lots of different places that you can flourish. If I move that right here, and I just do it in monoline really quickly. Alrighty. So we've got a few things that we can do. We can extend this up and do whatever flourish we want. We can do a different entry stroke. So we could do something like that. We can also do what can happen on an M, where, let me have a look just really quick right here. I think I can fit it in there. Yeah, somewhere there. I'm gonna have to swing that quite wide because I've made that really far over. Here we go. And of course in doing so, I've like completely neglected the thing I was trying to show you. But what we can do is we can sweep it back over and bisect that height because we've got so much height to play with. I haven't seen this done a lot. It's only on very, very decorative and playful work. So definitely don't keep this as a standard because it does reduce your legibility. But I think because a W is so tall and you've got all of those straight lines with no crossbar, no other intersecting features, that you can bisect them should you need to. So that is an option. We can also, I keep saying this, I keep saying that I should get a black pen over here and I never bloody do. Hold on, use a pencil. So what we can do right here is we can extend this up also if we need to, and then just do, so if that goes up like that and into whatever, then we would just start from here again. So we'd have two V's next to each other almost. That's possible. I've seen it happen. Again, it's not something that I've seen very often, so definitely use it sparingly. But if you've got an incredibly playful piece of work, then go for it. I think that's about it. With a W, you have the same deal as a U, where the bottom parts, what have I done with my pen? There it is. So the bottom parts, I'll bunt it on my black version over here. I've got some space over here so I can do something here, do some magic. So the bottom peaks, oh, where am I? There. So the bottom peaks, they must be to the same depth. So if you drop this lower, which I've seen a lot in modern scripts, where you play with heights across the same ladder. Just remove my post-it note, which will just stick into my arm. There we go. So if I drop this down lower, then it would mean for the gradual increase in negative space that it would throw off these other areas. So I mean, if I do an example of it, it's not going to go great, purely because I think in Copperplate it doesn't work that well. And I mean, even though this is monoline. Right, so I've got my first one. I'm going to drop the next one down. So in order to get, if I bring my post-it note that I just threw away back, in order to get the equal sort of thickness, I'm looking at my line ending up somewhere here, which means from the bottom I've almost got to keep it at that, at the line thickness of just one, and I think it creates too much attention. I can put that there or something, whatever. So if I put right here, so that is very narrow. Too much, like There's too much density, there's too much drama going on there, and it'll draw attention, which you obviously don't want, because it's taking it away from your letter. So I personally wouldn't do that. If it's something that you think is totally appropriate, then at least you know the drawbacks, so that you can make a judgment call. Like I've said a couple of times before, Copperplate is one of those where you can, you know, there's no standard for a lot of the writing. Beyond the basic strokes, there is a lot of variation, even in historic hands. And that's what makes it so special, because everybody's hand is different. But looking at the rules that are in place, we can extrapolate, and that's what I'm trying to do here. So I'm just saying, according to the rules, that this isn't a great idea. Okay, I think that is about it for a W. One of my favorite letters. I really hope you have fun with this one. Have a good time, and I will catch you later.